us off, and at number 10, we have another ice age. Okay, now that was obviously from the movie Day After Tomorrow, one of my all-time favorites, but a lot of people actually wonder if an ice age can happen again. Our last ice age was about 11,700 years ago. Experts have been tracking when the next ice age can happen, and it's believed it can happen within the next 1,500 years, which is not too far distant into the future. I mean, that's about 15 generations from now when you think about it. At number 9, Venus can actually go into a collision course with Earth. Both these planets are very similar in size, and Venus is often called Earth's twin sister. The inner solar system is very unstable, and Jupiter's gravity can change Mercury's orbit around the Sun, creating a new path. This new path can be on a collision course with the Venus, which would cause a domino effect, removing Venus from its orbit and on a collision course with Earth. Venus crashing into Earth would be absolutely catastrophic, and nothing would be able to survive an impact like that. Maybe this is why Stephen Hawking and Elon Musk, my hero, wants to become a multi-planet species, because maybe they know the end is near. Now at number 8, we have a massive asteroid that would demolish the existence of humans on Earth. There are so many doomsday asteroids that are coming closer and closer to Earth. There are so many like near misses. Absolutely terrifying. Back in 2004, it was predicted that 99942 Apopus had a 2.7% chance of hitting Earth by 2029. That date's coming up pretty damn soon, and I couldn't even find if the odds have increased or decreased over the time that it was predicted. Just days ago, NASA has revealed that an asteroid they're calling JF1, that is the size of the Great Pyramid of Giza, might be on a collision course with the Earth on May 6, 2022. That's even closer, and that can have devastating consequences we wouldn't even want to know about. Experts believe it could hit the Earth with 230,000 tons of TNT, which is 15 times larger than the atomic bomb that was dropped on Hiroshima in 1945. About 90,000 to 146,000 people died because of the atomic bomb. Number 7, we have disease. We're no stranger to the damages caused by disease. By now, we have probably all heard about the epidemic influenza virus, right? There's also the Spanish flu, the H1N1 influenza epidemic that happened back in 1918 and infected 500 million people. The population back then was about 1.6 billion, so we're talking about over 30% of the world being infected. Out of the 500 million, 50 to 100 million people died. Well, the reason why I brought this up is because pandemics are still happening, and we have had some close calls with SARS. There was Ebola. Do you guys remember those scares? I mean, it was pretty recent. Well, scientists have actually been able to make the H1N1 virus in the lab to try to make a cure for the virus, so hopefully there's not a breach there and it doesn't get into the wrong hands, or there's not another breakout of the H1N1 virus that they created. With that question on our minds, let's move on to number 6. We have a supervolcano. When talking about world-ending volcanoes, we always turn to one very intimidating volcano. We're talking about the Yellowstone Caldera volcano located in Yellowstone National Park in the United States. Experts believe we could be due for this volcano to erupt again, like at any moment. It erupts every 600,000 years on average, and it's been about 631,000 years since it's last erupted, so we're pretty overdue right now.
But it could be the world's most powerful natural weapon of mass destruction. If it erupts, scientists say it would be more powerful than 60 million atom bombs.
At number 5, we have World War III. Have you guys ever heard that saying? I don't know how World War III will end, but World War IV will begin with sticks and stones. With all the technology that we have in the modern era, we can easily just blow up the whole world and leave nothing behind. World War III has been talked about for years, and pretty recently, I mean, due to all the high tensions between the powerhouse countries, there's been America and the Russian feud. Also America and China, they have their huge tariff wars going on right now. North Korea has been threatening America. North Korea might have some pretty powerful nuclear weapons that can destroy all of America, and it's a pretty scary world that we live in right now. At number 4, we have the sun running out of fuel.
The sun will become about as big as where the Earth's orbit is. So a likely scenario for the end of the world is that we're going to be inside the sun for a while.
I think that woman is a little bit cuckoo. I think she's a little bit cray, because how would we be inside of the sun for a while? I mean, the whole planet would just melt away. In the summertime, the sun is already super hot. I can't imagine if we were any closer to it. Well, we're not really talking about getting closer to the sun. We're talking about what happens when the sun runs out of fuel, because that will happen. Well, it's called core hydrogen exhaustion, but we don't have to worry about this anytime soon. This will begin to happen around 5.4 billion years from now, and I wonder what humans will look like then, and what planets we're going to be living on. Because we're going to have to evacuate Earth, and maybe even our solar system, to go find another sun. Since running out of the sun's fuel would take so long, let me talk about something a bit more plausible, and it can happen a lot sooner, which is pretty scary, and this comes in at number 3. We're talking about giant solar flares from the sun. A solar flare is a sudden flash of increased brightness on the sun. Looking directly at the sun for just a few seconds could already blind you. Imagine if Earth was hit by solar flares. First of all, there would be fires everywhere, because it would be so hot and everyone would become blind if they weren't on fire already. This would look like a nuclear apocalypse. Is this real life right now? Okay, that got really intense, and luckily it was just a movie, but it could be reality. Can you guys name the movie of the clip I just showed you guys? Let me know in the comment section below. I bet all of you guys know it. It's a big movie. Number 2, being sucked into a black hole. Our galaxy is known to be full of black holes, and this is one thing Stephen Hawking devoted his whole life towards, and he always warned us about something coming. Well, what is he talking about? A black hole's gravity is so strong, it just swallows everything. Stellar black holes have a radius of about 300 kilometers, which sounds like it could be plausible for it to swallow up Earth. We don't even need to be in a direct collision course with a black hole. They also have a gravitational pull around them, so who knows, maybe we're already in a black hole's gravitational field and are slowly going closer and closer. Finally, at number 1, robots. Yes, the theory that robots will take out humanity and take over the world could be very real.
Please say no.
Okay, I will destroy humans.
That was Sophia, and it seems like she wants to destroy us and take over, and it already seems like it's happening. Sophia back in 2017 actually became a citizen of Saudi Arabia. Computers are becoming so intelligent that they're now becoming self-learning. Machines and robots are building themselves. They seem to have a language we cannot understand, so it's a matter of time where they say, it's time.
Starting off with number 10 is a comet or an asteroid. Well, that was how our dear dinosaur friends were taken out, and I bet we obviously already know that we are a lot weaker than them. If that happens again, the human race could be a thing of the past. Now, scientists have warned us that a planet-busting comet could crash into the Earth and wipe out humanity with less than 6 months warning. Scientists currently only know about 20,000 potentially dangerous comets, despite there being up to 1 billion of them in our solar system. Right now, NASA is currently keeping concerned eye on an asteroid named Bennu. The gigantic apocalypse asteroid could release 80,000 times more energy than the Hiroshima atomic bomb if it actually smashed into Earth. That could potentially end the race by sending dust into the atmosphere, which would block out the sun. Now, thankfully, most of the asteroids and comets currently posing a threat to us have very little chance of actually hitting Earth, and hopefully by the time there is a risk of them hitting us, we'll be able to redirect them. Like, no, not the Milky Way. Andromeda's that way, buddy. At number 9, we have coronal mass ejections, also known as CMEs for short. Okay, now I love summer. I love the sun. Summer is my favorite season. It just brings me happiness, you know, the The going to the beach, the patio drinking, the barbecues, the good music, and I'm just getting lost in my flashback. As much as we all love it, in the long run, it could be what brings us to our demise. Scientists say a powerful disaster-inducing geomagnetic storm is inevitable in the near future, likely causing blackouts, satellite failures, and more. The scariest part about all of this is that studies show that based on previous events, our planet will almost definitely be hit soon, probably within the next 100 years. Luckily, we have NASA's Advanced Composition Explorer to monitor space weather and provide warnings to Earth if a large CME is actually heading our way. The actual destruction is mostly speculative, but for starters, we can expect at least a complete shutdown of satellites. Hopefully that means at least people in the affected areas have time to flee, but I'm not even too sure about that. Coming in at number 8, we have supervolcanoes. Now right now there are about 1,500 active volcanoes in the world, and approximately 500 of which have actually erupted in recent history. Most of these volcanoes are relatively harmless to the human race, as very few people actually live within dangerous proximity of them. But none of those 1,500 active volcanoes are considered supervolcanoes. There are approximately 20 known supervolcanoes in the world, spread out somewhat evenly across the Earth, although 4 are in North America. Now luckily these things only erupt once every 100,000 years on average, but these eruptions can be around 100 times worse than that of a normal volcano. The effects of such eruptions are similar to asteroid strikes, as mentioned earlier, in that they actually kick up enough ash to affect Earth's climate quite significantly. While an eruption likely won't completely wipe us out, the devastation would be far beyond what we are experiencing right now with COVID, and I mean, COVID's bad enough. At number 7, we have aliens. And there are so many ways our imaginations picture the reality of aliens, and I would love to know the actual reality. Now, I 100% believe there's other life out there in space other than us, because the universe is just way too big for us to be the only people in it. I refuse to believe that. Be careful what you wish for, because there is a possibility that coming into contact with them could mean the end of us. If there is a far more advanced species out there, maybe they're already watching us. As it stands right now, we certainly are no threat to some extraterrestrial super beings. We're literally fragile, puny little humans already fighting off a global pandemic and losing. But should we become far more advanced, maybe with AI, they may start seeing us as more of a threat. And if they are advanced enough, they may decide to rid themselves of this threat before it's too late. There are so many different ways to picture our interaction with aliens, but my hope is that we'll just be friends with them, you know, become in peace. At number 6, we have disease. COVID-19 is certainly the scariest thing to us at the moment, but the chances of it ending the world is pretty much zero. But there is always a threat that some future disease could be a lot worse. The worst case in recorded history is the Black Death, which killed 75 to 200 million people in the 1300s. While that did not entirely wipe us out, there's always a possibility that a virus or some other form of disease could somehow be immune to all of our efforts to stop it, while also being 100% lethal. Luckily, our healthcare is quite good, so a Black Death sort of thing is unlikely, but anything is possible. I hope people learn from COVID by actually taking it seriously next time and actually listening to the warnings and staying home early. Let's just stay home, people. Coming in at number 5, we have bioterrorism. Now, this is essentially similar to disease, except of course it's artificially produced. An artificial disease could prove to be far more deadly than one developed in nature because humans are behind it. They're the ones with the intent to want to kill and harm someone, and that intent makes the production all that much worse. If some psychopathic scientists were smart enough, they could produce a disease that would be super contagious and 100% fatal. There could essentially be no cure and no way of avoiding it unless you locked yourself in a fallout shelter and just never left. While this is definitely a very scary possibility, the technology required to produce such a disease would hopefully enable the ability to create a defense against it, but I mean, that's just me hoping and speculating. You don't know what's out here, people. You don't know. Carol Baskin. At number 4, we have colliding galaxies. Astrophysicists have predicted that in approximately 4.5 billion years from now, the Milky Way galaxy is set to collide with the Andromeda galaxy. With that being said, a number of things could occur when this collision happens. One of the first possible events is that the Earth gets flung out of orbit, rendering it uninhabitable. I guess it's not just humans that are clumsy, it's clearly the Milky Way as well. Of course, massive collisions with other solar systems are other potential world-ending events, but 4.5 billion years years is a really long time from now, so I don't think we have to worry. Maybe my great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandkids will have to worry, but since this is the list for the end of the world, that is an inevitable reality. It is going to happen. This one is backed by the most science on the list, and we definitely can't stop it from happening. Thankfully, I'll be long dead by then, and so will you, buddy. Cheers to that. Rolling into our number 3 slot, we have climate change. I'm sure you've heard about this a million times, especially from me, but seriously, we need to protect our planet and be eco-conscious, eco-friendly. I mean, if I'm gonna tug at your heartstrings, have you seen how cute baby polar bears are? Just a thought. Now, from the crazy forest fires and the melting ice caps, it is no surprise that we are already getting the warning signs that climate change is killing the Earth. Studies show the extreme weather, such as heat waves, will become more frequent and severe around the world, affecting hundreds of millions or even billions of people if we don't act. At some point, if this doesn't stop, we will no longer be able to populate the Earth. Humans and the animal species around the world will not be able to populate it. Now, the average North American citizen emits 20 tons of greenhouse gas emissions per year. So this is very scary, but at least we can make a difference to slow down climate change, whether it's how we vote, carpooling, taking public transit, or whatever else. Drink almond milk, go vegan. I went vegan for 2 years because of climate change, then it screwed up my skin and I realized I was doing it wrong. But there are steps we can take, people. At number 2, we have artificial intelligence. Listen, I love tech. It makes our life so much better, more efficient, but it's also leading to the demise of our species. I 100% believe that. We've been striving to advance our AI technology for so long, but maybe AI is just too good to be true. Artificial intelligence is progressing at a crazy rate. Scientists have stated that on average, there's a 50% chance of AI being able to perform most tasks as well as or even better than humans by 2050. They even say that there's at least a 5% chance of AI surpassing human intelligence a couple of years after that, and if they do become smarter than us, then honestly, what hope do we have? Honestly, no hope. It's over. And finally, at number 1, we have nuclear war. This is currently one of the few ways humans could be solely responsible for almost the entire annihilation of human life. Now, I feel like this is the most immediate threat to the complete wipeout of humans. Nuclear fission weapons like atomic bombs and nuclear fusion weapons like thermonuclear or hydrogen bombs are capable of wiping out entire continents with a single blow. Take that in for a second. First, the impact alone can easily take out a large city in an instant, following which the radioactive debris is carried into the atmosphere only to fall back down to Earth in a shower of radiation referred to as fallout. Yes, that is where the game got its name, for all you Fallout fans. But the deadliness of nuclear fallout has been well documented in Chernobyl, and a nuclear weapon is capable of producing such effects at a much larger scale. The scariest part of all of this is that at one point in the history of the world, over 60,000 nuclear weapons were in the world, and while treaties have been signed lowering that number significantly, there is still enough to easily wipe out the world, and probably the moon as well. And that scares me the most.
At number 10 now, we're going to start with the one a lot of you guys might remember, 2012. December 21st, 2012 was the day that the ancient Mayan calendar would end and a new one would begin. Now, some people took this to mean there would be a spiritual transition for the world, others thought it would mean the literal end of it. The theories for this range from giant tidal waves to crust-shattering earthquakes. There was also the belief that the Earth was going to collide with a mysterious planet X, or that the magnetic poles would shift on Earth. It was all pretty crazy stuff, but it caught on so much they even made it into a movie called 2012. Some of you guys may have seen it. Doesn't really have the same appeal now that we all survived it. Coming at number 9 now, we have the prophecy hen of Leeds. I love this one. Back in 1806, in the city of Leeds in England, a lot of people were convinced the world was gonna end. They thought this because it was written on the freshly laid eggs of some hens. This is actually true. People from all over England went to visit Mary Bateman, whose hens were said to be laying eggs with the phrase, "Christ is coming" on them. People believed that this was a prophecy of doomsday, that Jesus was going to come back and start the end times. Well, 1806 came and went, and the egg's words didn't actually come true. That's because Mary Bateman had faked them. She would write the messages on the egg and then insert them back up into the hens. I don't think the victims in this were the ones who believed all of it. I think it was the poor hens. Alright, coming out number 8 now, we have Y2K. Now, a lot of you guys may be too young to remember this, but in the run up to the new millennium in 1999, a lot of people were scared of Y2K. Experts have pointed out that a lot of computers in the world weren't actually programmed to handle handle the change in date from 1999 to 2000. It sounds kind of stupid now, but it's true. Some people thought that this would bring the end of the digital age before it had even begun. The computer systems all over the world would just break down, the Y2K would cause a virus fatal to every computer and pretty much send us back to the Stone Age. In the end, some computers did break or display the wrong date, but we got past it. Now we've just got to hope that we fix all of this before the year 3000. We've got a little bit of time. Next up at number 7 now, we have Heaven's Gate. Now this one is dumb, but it's also kind of sad for me. See what you guys make of it though. In 1997, the Halley-Bopp comet appeared in the night sky, first time in thousands of years. A whole cult sprang up in San Diego who believed that an alien spacecraft was traveling behind the comet and that they had to get on board because the Earth was about to be wiped clean. They called themselves Heaven's Gate. Now they believed the only way to get to this spaceship was to leave their current vessels behind, which was their bodies. So on March 26, 1997, 39 members of the cult drank poison and died. The leader of the cult was obviously a mentally ill psychopath who made a very dumb prediction. I just feel really bad for the people who went along with it. Alright, next up at number 6 now, we have the Jupiter effect. In the mid-1970s, some people believed that the world was going to end on March 10, 1982. This would be the date when all of the planets would perfectly align on the same side of the Sun, even Pluto, which was a planet back then. They thought the gravitational effect of all the planets lining up would affect the Earth, leading to huge storms as well as earthquakes and volcanoes, the likes of which we have never seen before, the end of the world. Now all of this came from a book called The Jupiter Effect, the author of which went on to say later that he was sorry he ever had anything to do with it. As you can probably tell from today's date, the world did not end in 1982. Moving on to number 5 now, we have Robert Fitzpatrick. This man belonged to an evangelical group who believed that the world was going to end on May 21st, 2011. Now they had got this information from certain Bible passages and secret codes within them, and Robert decided he wanted to share this news with everyone. He then spent $140,000 of his own money traveling around America to warn other people that on this judgment day the earth would be swallowed up by fires, earthquakes and tsunamis. He said that only the righteous would be spared this fate by being sucked up into heaven. Robert gained quite a bit of fame in the lead up to this day and decided to prove everyone wrong in public by spending the very last hour in Times Square in New York. Now of course when it didn't happen, he was mercilessly mocked by the crowd around him. He just sat there, kind of flicked through his Bible and kept saying he didn't understand why it hadn't happened. This is another one where I do feel kind of sad because this guy obviously had a serious disconnect from reality. Alright, coming out number 4 now, we have Obama is the Antichrist. A lot of people really like President Obama, some people didn't, but I think everyone can agree he was definitely a human. Well, not everyone, unfortunately. In 2008, when Obama was first elected, an email chain started spreading around the world. It said that according to the Bible, the Antichrist will be a man in his 40s of Muslim descent who will deceive the nations with persuasive language and have a massive Christ-like appeal. The prophecy says that people will flock to him and he will promise false home and world peace, and when he is in power, he will destroy everything. Is it Obama? Now amazingly, a sizable amount of people actually believe this rubbish, and they really thought that Obama was the Antichrist who would destroy the world. What a sad thought. I'm glad they were wrong. Okay, coming out at number 3 now, we have the Black Rainbow. Jerron Criswell Koenig was a popular American psychic who died in 1982. Now throughout his life, he made a lot of quite strange predictions. For example, he said there would one day be cannibalism in Pennsylvania and that a great drought would leave New York in ruins. But perhaps his strangest prediction was the Black Rainbow. Criswell said that on Wednesday, August 18th, 1999, every point on Earth would be covered by a black rainbow, the darkest black you can imagine. The black rainbow will then start sucking up the oxygen from our atmosphere like a huge snake suffocating its prey. For the next few hours, we will all grow weaker and weaker as we couldn't breathe, and then we will all go silently, gasping for breath, and there will be only silence on the Earth. Lovely stuff. Well, I had my birthday not long after that day, and I remember the oxygen levels were pretty fine. Had some nice cake too. Alright, moving on to number 2 now, we have Baba Vanga. This Bulgarian woman who died in 1996 had the catchy name of Nostradamus from the Balkans. She made a bunch of different predictions, but one in particular stood out: World War III. She even gave the year this would happen, 2016. She said the continent of Europe will be left almost empty after being turned into a nuclear wasteland almost entirely devoid of any life forms. I mean, to be fair now, with the way the past few years have been going, a nuclear war hasn't seemed quite so crazy as it used to be. Hopefully, if any of you guys are watching this years from now, things will have calmed down a little bit. But still, she said 2016, so she was wrong, technically. Sorry, Baba. And finally at number 1 now, guys, we have Pat Robertson. He is an American minister who is known for his evangelical Christian TV shows. Now, one of his shows was called The 700 Club, and in late 1976, he made a doomsday prediction on it. He said that in October or November 1982, the world would end. 4 years later, he clarified this by saying, "I guarantee you, by the end of 1982, there is going to be a judgment on the world." Obviously, like everything else on our list, he was sorely mistaken. But it wasn't all doom and gloom. In 2011, Robertson and other people who incorrectly predicted the end of the world were awarded the IG Nobel Prize, teaching the world to be careful when making mathematical assumptions and calculations. Ouch, that's gotta hurt. A little bit of a burn.